Let's talk about something that makes a lot of people squirm: feedback. Whether it's helpful advice or a blunt critique, the truth is how we receive it often matters more than how it's delivered. In this episode, we're unpacking the difference between feedback and criticism, why we take things so damn personally, and how to stop letting our ego block our growth. I'll share some hard lessons, some personal stories, including the time that I cried after a portfolio review that changed my entire career. And I'll give you real tools to turn even the harshest feedback into fuel. Whether it stings a little or a lot, what you do with it is what defines your progress. Ready to stop taking it personal and start taking it seriously? Let's get into it. A lot of people get butthurt over anyone pointing out areas where they could improve or areas of weakness because a lot of times we take it as a personal attack. Technically, criticism and feedback are the same thing. The definitions are almost identical, but the way we perceive each one feels completely different. Criticism to me has such a negative tone to it, but when I think of the word feedback, it feels more like someone saying, I want to help you. And maybe it's just me, but I prefer the nicer sounding word. Either way, there are two ways to deliver this information, and for this episode's sake, I'm going to call criticism the mean kind that stings and hurts our feelers, and feedback is the kind that also might sting and hurt our feelers, but we know it's coming from a good place. So before we get too deep into it, I want to talk about taking a step back and kind of assessing the situation, pausing to ask ourselves some questions before we really react to the criticism or the feedback. So first of all, who's giving this feedback to you? Do you know them? Is it someone that you respect? And did you ask for this feedback? Or was it somehow like previously discussed that you were open to getting it? Or was this just like a surprise roasting? Because those things matter. If it's someone that you know, it can kind of be a mixed bag. Like someone that you know, you could take it either way. It could be welcome. You're like, oh, okay, like this is my best friend and they have my best interest in mind. Or maybe it's just like a coworker and you have, feel some sort of way about it. You really have to think about, where is this coming from? Who is this person and what do they mean to me? And how are they positioned in relation to where I am in my career and my abilities versus theirs? And I'm wondering, what are their qualifications? So do they have more experience than you? Do they know more on the subject than you? And maybe they don't. Maybe their feedback is still valid, even if they don't know more than you, especially if there's someone that you're learning alongside. Like say you're taking a class together or you took the same seminar and they're seeing you do something that they just learned as well. Even if they can't execute it themselves, sometimes you can still point stuff out like, hey, you're supposed to be doing it like this, and so-and-so said do this, and you're not, whatever. It doesn't mean that you should discount their feedback just because they don't themselves have that skill, mastered. Maybe they've made the same mistakes and had to learn from it the hard way, and they're now trying to save you from making that same mistake. And that's all valuable too. Why are they telling you? So what's in it for this person? Understanding the motivation behind the feedback can really change how you receive it. Do they have something to gain from it? If there's nothing in it for them, they're likely just trying to help you. But don't discount it if there is something in it for them, because it could possibly just be a mutually beneficial situation where, maybe they're trying to help you grow your, maybe it's your boss and they're trying to help you with your social media presence so that you can be busier. So yes, it does benefit them because, you're paying a percentage to the shop and they're going to make more money, but you're also going to make more money and you're going to grow your career. So it doesn't mean that it's not valid. It doesn't mean that it's not important just because there is something for the other person to gain from it. After assessing who it's coming from and why it's coming from them, it's time to get really honest with ourselves. Could what they're saying be true? Once you get past the stingy part and you get over your feelings and you put your ego out of the way, you have to really ask yourself, is this true? Or are they just being mean? Are they just trying to knock me down a peg? If you disagree, is this just a perspective difference? Can you see why they might say that, but it's just opinion based and you just disagree with them? Or is it possible that they're seeing something that you don't see because you're too close to the problem? For example, when I played roller derby, I was one of the better blockers on the team. I was definitely up there with the top few, and we played in a game that we then gave the video to this coach from a top 10 team in the world so that they could analyze our footage from the game and come back to us with notes and feedback and things that we should work on. And they literally, in some cases, like broke it down to like, this skater did this and it was wrong and they should have done this instead. And I went into the situation feeling great about my performance. Like, I got MVP that game. I was like, I fucking killed it, and she's not going to have anything to say about me. False. We won the game. I won the award. I thought I was on point and killed it, but no. I missed so many things. I failed at so many things. And not saying that she was just calling me out specifically out of everyone, but my name did come up a lot, or my number, I would say. She didn't know exactly who I was, but like, I was in there a lot for the feedback. But she was right. So A, I asked for this feedback. B, she's like top 10 coach in the world. She knows the fuck she's talking about. And watching the footage myself, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I wouldn't have seen it myself. Like, I watched the game before we sent it to her and thinking like, yeah, if I can kill it, like, I got this, I did that. You know, I'm looking at the things I did right. And her entire job was to see what we missed and what we weren't doing, and she did a fantastic job of that. And I wouldn't have really picked up on those things had we not had her analyze the game. So without her perspective and her knowledge of what could have been and what I could have done better, where I needed to improve and where I'm getting stuck and what my weaknesses are, I would have continued on thinking that I was this badass like blocker. And the reality was I was just like, okay, you know, I did okay in that game with the people that I was skating with, but on a national level, there was so much improvement I could have made. So sometimes it's just your perspective. Like, you think that you know, it's like you don't know what you don't know. You think you're doing great until someone points out that you're not, and you're like, ah, fuck, they're right, right? So until you can make that visual connection sometimes of what you think and what you want to be doing and what you're actually physically doing, you're just going to be struggling, wondering why things aren't working. And sometimes it just takes that outside person, that outside perspective to help you see it. And even if it is opinion based and you don't agree with it, could what they are saying be helpful in some way? So maybe they have a point, maybe you don't fully agree with everything, but there could be parts to take away from it and apply to what you're doing. Or are they just trying to hurt you and knock you down a peg? In most cases, I find that people who are like this are not even really going to take the time to sit down with you and do a whole portfolio review just to hurt you. No one cares that much about hating you. I promise you that. If someone is just trying to knock you down a peg, they're probably going to be the type that's commenting on your Instagram post, and they're not going to be investing time to sit with you and tell you how to improve on what you're doing. So if you have some like random fucking internet troll like commenting on your shit, like, oh, your line work sucks and like do this, do that, I would take that with a grain of salt, because like, or maybe even hit them up like, hey, I'd love for you to actually critique my work and give me some pointers rather than just shit posting on my, you know, in my comments. Anyone that's going to actually take the time to sit with you and give you their thoughts and their opinions and feedback and help you, they care. They're just trying to help you. They're not trying to hurt you. There's a really good chance that their intentions are good. So now that we've assessed who's giving the feedback and why we care about what they have to say, now we have to consider, why do we want the feedback? Which seems like a no-brainer, right? But it's kind of like that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. You're so close to the problem that you're literally in it, living it. It's hard to see what's really going on and how to fix it. So many times I'll have somebody come to me with their drawing saying they hate it. They don't know why they hate it. Something looks off and they can't really figure out what's going on and how to make it better. And I can look at it and immediately see what's going on and immediately see like the flaws in the composition to be able to point them out to them. And they've been staring at this for hours and sometimes days, fighting with it, trying to figure it out, but they're just too close to it. And the same thing happens to me. I'll be like, why the fuck? Like, I hate this. Why can't I get this to work? And it just looks off and something's wrong, but I can't figure out what it is. And I'll, turn to my coworker and they're like, oh, it's because, you have a tangent over here, or it's because your background is the same size as your foreground. I'm like, what? Like, I know this shit. I know all of this. Why are you able to see it, but I'm not? Because I'm too close to it and I need an outside perspective on it. So this is a really funny example of that. I don't know how funny you're going to think this is, but looking back, I'm like, what a fucking dumbass. I literally like such a shithead when I was younger. And sometimes when I think of these stories, I'm like, oh my God, how did no one just fucking punch me in the face, right? So speaking of punching, kickboxing, I did Muay Thai for a little while. It didn't work out because, like I said, I was a shithead and I questioned everything the coach said to me and fought him on everything. And again, you know, my own perception of things is not always the reality. So I can't see what I'm doing. I can feel what I'm doing. I think I'm doing the thing. I can feel myself like I think I'm in the position that he's telling me. So he called me out in front of the entire class and he's like, you're not doing this. And I was like, yes, I am. And he's like, I'm looking at you. You're not doing it. And I'm like, I'm fucking doing it. I don't know what your problem is. I'm like literally arguing with this guy. Like the whole class is watching me not do the thing. And I'm like arguing that I am. So stupid. What's wrong with me? But I'm literally doing it in my mind. And I'm like, this guy's so fucking stupid. I'm doing it. Like, what a fucking dickhead. I hate him. And so he literally brings me over to the mirror and has me do it. And I'm looking in the mirror and I was like, oh, so fucking dumb. And like, I was so sure I had it right and I was doing it right and I was doing exactly what he said and it wasn't working. And like my punches had like no power behind them because I wasn't doing the thing that he fucking said. So it might feel one way to me, but the reality is I'm going to get injured or like I'm going to end up, you know, hurting myself, hurting somebody else or whatever the case. I need this outside feedback to find these missing pieces that I can't find on my own. You can be the most self-aware person in the world and still not be able to really know what your body is doing or what your art is doing from your internal first-person perspective. You may believe in your soul and to your core that you are packing color the way that you were taught and you think that you're holding the machine correctly and you're moving your hand exactly right. You can feel yourself doing the thing. And then someone can walk over and be like, why are you doing it like that? Which, by the way, is my fucking night. I've been doing this for 21 years and it is my absolute nightmare when another tattoo artist comes over and looks over my shoulder while I'm packing color because I'm like, oh my God, don't look. I want to like hide my hand. I'm like, what? Stop. What if I'm doing it wrong? I think I'm doing it right, but like, don't look at me, right? But you could think that you're doing it right and have someone come over and be like, that's interesting. Why do you do it like that? And like completely fuck up all of your confidence and your sureness about what you're doing. But without that outside perspective to show you, it might take you a lifetime to understand what you're doing wrong. So now we know why it's important and who we want it to come from and why it's important knowing who it's coming from. We got to understand that feedback is feedback, even when it's mean, even when it's like criticizing. And at this point in my life, I like to hear it all. Be mean. I don't fucking care anymore. But there's a reason that I don't care. I have grown a super hard shell over the years, and I've learned that I have to detach myself emotionally from my work, or I'm never going to be able to hear what I need to hear and not really hear it anyway, and not be able to take what they say and do something with it. And I can remember the exact moment that this shifted in my mind. And I'm going to share this story, but I want to like preface this by saying I do not blame her. She's not a dick. She was not trying to hurt me in any way. In the moment, I was like, fuck her, what a bitch, right? But that's not the case at all. She took her time to sit with me and critique my portfolio. I asked her to, and she did exactly that. And honestly, she may be the only person in my entire career that gave me the truth that I needed to fucking hear. And it changed my life and it changed my career. And regardless of her delivery on it, I so deeply appreciate what she did for me that night because it literally did and changed my entire career path. So that being said, Teresa Sharp, I'm a huge fan. I love her work. She is so fucking talented. I took one of her seminars at a conference out in LA. I think it was an all-female conference. It was awesome. And I've seen her seminar two or three times now, and she's just amazing. I could listen to her teach all day. But after the conference is over, they have these like meetups at the bars or restaurants where you can go up to these presenters and ask them to critique your portfolio, which is terrifying, right? Because they're like way up here. They're like so out of your league, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to go give them this shit portfolio for them to like shit all over me and tell me how I suck, whatever, which is not the case. Like everybody is so incredibly nice. This is a different situation, but anyone who knows who she is or has taken any of her seminars or had an in-person conversation with her knows that she is a no bullshit hard ass, and I freaking love this about her. That being said, I went to this conference. I went to the portfolio review afterwards. I asked her to critique mine. It's the very end of the night. My fucking bitch ass waited till the last minute because I was scared. So I waited until like, I think it was like 11 p.m., maybe midnight. And I finally asked her after she's done like probably 25 different portfolio critiques. So I'm like, the end of the night, she's probably so fucking tired. She's probably tired of seeing the same shit in everybody's portfolios that they're doing wrong. And so she may have been a little irritable when I brought it to her. And, she flipped through very quickly, looked at some stuff, and she said, it's just not interesting. This woman might as well have taken her fork and fucking stabbed it directly into my heart. I was like, ouch. She said, it's just not that interesting. Where's the stories? Where's like, what are you trying to say with this? What does this mean? Why are you doing it like this? She's like, it just doesn't interest me. And I was just like, okay. All right. In the moment I was just like, thank you. I appreciate it. And she gave me some other tips and stuff that I honestly probably didn't hear or receive because I was still recovering from the first one. But I was just in the moment was just like, thank you. Okay. All right. I hear you. Thanks. Thanks for taking the time to look at my shitty portfolio. And I literally went back to my hotel room and cried. And it fucking caught me so deep. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so embarrassed that I even showed this to her. She's like, oh my God, this idiot. Like I don't know. I'm sure she didn't think any of those things and she was just trying to help me. But literally went back to my room and cried for a little while. And then I was like, should I quit tattooing? Maybe I'm not even cut out for this. I'll never be good enough. All of those thoughts that you have when someone completely fucking sweeps the rug out from under you. And I pulled myself together at one point and made this decision that if I quit right now, if she says this to me and I fucking quit, I've wasted her time. I wasted the time that she just gave to me to give me honest feedback and to tell me how I could be better. So she took the time to tell me, here's the key. Here's how you get better. Here's the key that's going to unlock the door to the next level. And my reaction is quit. Like, oh, it's too hard. I don't want to go through that doorway. What? So I decided that I'm not going to waste her time that she decided to spend on me. And I'm not going to waste all of the time and effort that I put into my career either, because at that point, I think I was tattooing probably, let's see, that was probably, I was probably like 10 or 12 years in. And that's a lot of time to invest in something to just give up because somebody said something hard that I didn't want to hear. So instead, I decided to fucking, pick up my ego off the floor and just let it sink in what she was trying to tell me. And now, I come back from the conference and every single thing I have drawn since that moment, you bet your ass I'm thinking, is this interesting? Does this tell a story? Do all of the details have a purpose? I heard her and I fucking took that and I put it to good use and I didn't waste it and I didn't waste her time. How you take the criticism is what makes it constructive. I think you can only really call it constructive criticism if you actually do something with it. Otherwise, it's literally just criticism. So reflecting on what they said is so important. Write it down. Come back to it when you're done crying and really hear it and absorb it. I wish in that moment, if I could go back, I wish that I had been taking notes. I wish that she was telling me stuff and I was writing it down, and that way I could like go back to the room, deal with my feelings, file them away, and then look back at what she said and looked at it completely detached of feeling. Because like I said, like I was so focused on the first thing that she said and trying to recover from that first blow that I didn't really hear the rest of what she said. And now I'm like, fuck, I'd love to go back and hear it again, but I can't. But really reflect on what they say and absorb it and hear it and try to see it from their perspective. And then go back and analyze your work and force yourself to look at it. Force yourself to go back and see the mistakes. Go back and see if you can find the same mistakes in other pieces and figure out, is this a pattern? Is this the first time that you've done it and that they picked out and you're never going to do it again? Or what went wrong in the situation? How would you do it differently now? I like to go back and rethink old tattoos. So I'll go look at stuff from last year and kind of pick it apart. And how would I make this better now? How would I draw this if I could redo this now, knowing what I know? And what should I have done? What am I going to do different next time? Especially the tattoos that you don't like. We all have our favorite tattoos and we want to bring our best to the table to get critiqued, but we're going to learn far more from the tattoos that didn't go well and the tattoos that look like, not up to our standards than we are from the really good tattoos, because they're going to look at that and be like, oh, looks good. When meanwhile, you're over here like having all kinds of issues with this tattoo you did last week, So even if you're not bringing it to someone else to critique, make sure that you're really going back and looking. And a lot of times people will be like, I don't like the tattoo, so I didn't take pictures of it. Take pictures of it. Take pictures of the ones you hate, because you have to look at it. You have to acknowledge it so that you don't make the mistake again. Look at it in depth and be like, here's why I hate this. Here's where it went wrong. Here's what I'm not going to do next time. And then make a plan going forward of how you're going to avoid it next time. So that means ask for help. I know it's hard. None of us like to ask for help, but you have coworkers, hopefully you don't just work by yourself, because that's rough. But even so, I'm sure you have like peers in the industry that you can ask for help, ask for their opinion. Like, I don't know how to do this. Like, they said that my, gradients are really rough and I need to make smoother gradients, but I physically don't know how. Go find a person that you either work with or that in the industry that their gradients are super smooth. How are you getting them so smooth? How are you doing this? Like, would you mind giving me some tips? Go get tattooed by somebody who has the thing or the talent that you don't have. Sit there and fucking watch them tattoo you and see what they're doing. It doesn't always work, but you can also attempt to message somebody that you really look up to. Maybe they have like 1 million followers. They might not ever see your message, but sometimes they're in their DMs and sometimes they do write back and sometimes they're more than happy to help. There's been so many times where I've reached out to people who I thought were so far out of reach and that would never give me the time of day and been like, how are you doing that? Like, what color is that? Or how did you make that transition from this color to that color? Like, tell me what you're doing. And they're more than happy to help because it makes them feel good that they're doing something right. Like, you're kind of giving them a compliment by telling them, oh my God, you're so good at this. Like, I don't understand it. How do you know how to do this? So a lot of people enjoy sharing. Of course, there's always going to be those people that are, like, fuck you, figure it out. I'm not going to tell you my secrets. Like, whatever. If it doesn't work out, they don't answer you. So what? Like, move on. Ask somebody else. But ask for help from someone. I'm a huge advocate for accountability buddies. I've talked about it before, but having someone that can be like, hey, you said you were going to work on this. Did you? If my goal coming back from a critique is I'm going to clean up my line work. I'm not going to have any of these like crossover lines, and I'm going to make sure I use different line weights for my tattoos going forward. And your accountability buddy sees that you're not doing it. They can be like, hey, what's up? I thought you said you wanted to do this. Were you lying? Maybe they're nicer than me, but like, just having that person to be able to call you out and keep you on track and just make sure you're doing what you said you wanted to do is is so just valuable. And I highly, highly recommend finding somebody that you can do that with. You can also consider taking a class. Seminars are everywhere now. They're online, they're in person, they're at conventions. Just look around. You'll find them. You could literally search them up, and I'm sure you'll find a seminar on whatever it is you're struggling with. And you can also, it doesn't even have to be a tattoo related seminar. You can take a class on color theory, or you can take a class on, whatever subject that you're struggling with, that as long as it's not like a technical tattoo skill, like you could find a class for that. I guarantee you. Go to the nearby colleges and take an art class, or learn photography in order to get better reference photos so that your tattoos have more realistic lighting or textures or what have you. Learn something new outside of the industry that might help and might be able to get you further in your actual tattoos. If I suck at understanding and creating light sources in my tattoos, I might try to find a course on exactly that and learn it. And the chances of this knowledge just magically finding its way into my mind and work and fixing the problem are pretty fucking low. So I'm going to put in the effort to go out there and look for the information and look for what I'm trying to learn. And if you aren't taking in classes, you can always buy books. Remember those? The pages, you turn them. Buy a book on the subject. I have a million art books, and I also have books for like photo references, because sometimes, and especially now, I'm so glad I have these books now that I'm just thinking about this. I'm so glad I have these like photo books, because have you tried to look up a picture, like a reference picture of something on Google, and you cannot tell anymore what's AI and what's real? Like if I'm looking up some exotic animal and 90% of the pictures are AI, am I even looking at what this animal actually looks like? They might have the details all fucked up. Like I'm so paranoid that I'm going to accidentally use an AI photo as a reference for something and get like their anatomy wrong or something. I have nightmares about this, but having like actual books on these subjects, like you can find like tons of books on any subject that you could possibly think of that you want to get better at. You can find websites and articles and Reddit threads that talk about these things, or you can ask for help in like public forums like Reddit, or on, a Facebook tattoo community. Although those, maybe not those. I would maybe stay out of those unless you're in mine, which we're not really active in yet, but hopefully someday soon. But either way, like asking and looking for the information and going all in on whatever that weakness is until you've fixed it. One of my favorite things to do, although I did not do this with Teresa, is ask for a follow-up critique after you have worked on the thing that they said to work on. So I think I shared this in a previous episode, but I went to these conferences. These are all the Explorer conferences that I went to, and I saw Dan Pemble's seminar at least, I think, 7 times, because I saw it 6 times in person and once online. So I think it was 7 times I saw this. And the 7th time I was like, I've seen this 7 times now. Like, he's like, what? Why have you seen it so many times? I'm like, well, I keep coming to all of these conferences, and he was always there. But while I was watching him on stage that last time, I was like, I'm still fucking making these mistakes. Like the first time I saw his seminar, I was like, oh my God, it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing these things. I need to go home immediately and fix these things. And I didn't. And then I saw it again, and I still didn't make the changes, and I didn't make the changes and didn't make the changes. So the 7th time I see his seminar, I was like, oh shit. Okay. Like I cannot let one more time go by before I actually hear this, take this in, and do something with this information. I need to go home immediately, do these things. I was like, I am setting the intention right now. I'm working on these things. I am not going to let another fucking day go by where I make these same mistakes. So I ended up telling him this at the after party. I was like, I've seen your seminar this many times, and I made this decision that I'm not going to let another year go by where I don't make these changes. And he's like, have I ever done a critique for you? And I was like, no. He's like, why not? I said, because you're scary, and I already know what you're going to say. And he's like, no, I'm not scary. And he's not. He's actually so super nice, but he just knows his shit. He's an excellent teacher and he knows what he's talking about. And I knew he was going to call me out on like all of the things that he says not to do. So I was like scared. I was afraid of him calling me out. Basically, I didn't want to hear the truth. I didn't want to like face my fucking demons. So I let him look at my portfolio. I think he just like pulled up my Instagram, was looking at my Instagram and just going to town on my work. And I was just like, okay. I mean, he did say there was a couple things where he's like, now this you did a great job with. And, held on to that glimmer of hope and that little like spark of joy as tightly as I could. But all of the other things he said, I knew he was going to say that. That's why I didn't want to show him, because I could go through my Instagram and look at all of these tattoos and be like, yep, I did that. All these things that he says not to do. That's what's wrong with this one. Like I could pick them out, but I think actually hearing him say that to me maybe solidified it even more. Maybe if I didn't have that conversation with him, another year would have gone by before I made those changes. But after the fact, so I go home, immediately start applying this information. In fact, I made a checklist. I'm such a nerd. I made a checklist of all the things that I wanted to work on. So when I was going into it, I'm like, okay, does it have a strong silhouette? Does it have good contrast? Does it have this, that? I had my whole damn Pemble checklist. So whenever I would like create my design, I'd go back to my checklist and be like, okay, did I hit all of these points? Is everything that I wanted to work on covered? Like, do I need to make any more changes? And once I passed all of those tests, then I would move on to actually tattooing it. But once I started doing that, then I started literally sending him my tattoos on Instagram. In his DMs, I would be like, hey, I really tried to apply the things that you taught. Can you look at this and see what you think? Is there anything that I missed? And he would be like, oh, it's much better, but this isn't this, and I'm like, okay. And then like run back and like add that to my arsenal. So it was awesome being like, for him to be that willing to work with me after the fact, like no one's making him do that, but he's just a super nice guy and, he enjoys teaching. So he was happy to help me out. And so, I can see the physical confirmation of like, yes, I conquered these things that I was struggling with, and then I can move on to the next thing. But I will tell you that getting defensive and making excuses or telling the person that's giving you feedback all the reasons that they're wrong is going to do you absolutely zero favors. Just shut up and get better. When you get defensive and you think that you're protecting yourself, but really you're only hurting yourself. So this has happened to me more times than I can count. Not me getting defensive, but me trying to help somebody. Someone comes to me, asks me my advice, like what they should do or how they could do this better or whatever the case is. It's anything from like portfolio to critiques to like social media help or whatever it is. I take the time to sit there with them and to try and help them and give them advice, that I know is what the problem is. I know this is going to help them. And they want to tell me all the reasons that it's not going to work for them. And you don't understand my situation. And, like whatever it is, it's like they can't see what they're doing. They can't see that they are making excuses because to them it's real. To them it's like it's impossible. There's no way. My boss would never let me do this, or I can never do that. And the fact of the matter is like they haven't even tried, so they don't even know. So nothing makes me more insane than someone asking my advice and then telling me why that it's not going to work for them and not taking it and doing literally nothing to help themselves. Anyway, when you get defensive, you think you're protecting yourself, but you're really just hurting yourself and you don't get the full benefit. You've essentially wasted their time, your time, the time that you could have been putting to good use making these improvements. And if you get defensive, you don't get to ask follow-up questions. So if I would have sat there as, Dan Pemble is critiquing my portfolio and I disagreed with him and was like, no, you're wrong. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but no, I'm not going to do that. Do you think that he would have been open to helping me when I messaged him? Absolutely not. He'd have been like, fuck this bitch. She was giving me so much shit whenever I was giving her, her portfolio critique. I took the time to talk to her and she was like, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. So you can't expect to get more help if you're not open and willing to hear the first time that they help you. If you blow up on them for telling you truths that you didn't want to hear, you're probably not going to get the chance to come back after you've calmed down and ask for clarity. So in the moment, I could have been like, and I wish I would have done this with Teresa. In the moment, I was very injured, I had, my gaping wound of, her critique, and I probably could have come back and been like, hey, you said this, like, what did you mean by that? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I could have asked for more clarity from her had I not been so wounded and been so, like, just a fucking train wreck in that moment. The best thing that you can do is to detach yourself from your work emotionally. And I know that's totally backwards from what creating art is supposed to be and what it's supposed to feel like. And I'm not saying during the creation process that you want to detach emotionally, because, do your thing, create how you create. But once it's done, you have to separate. You have to separate yourself. If no one in your life has ever told you this before, let me be the first. Your worth and your value is not based on how much people like your art. At the end of the day, it's art. No one has or ever will agree on art, period. If you think that you're going to create something that everyone likes, you are only setting yourself up for disappointment. It's not even remotely possible to create something that will appeal to every single person, so just put that out of your mind. Expecting the rejection makes it matter less to you when it happens. I'm not saying that expect that everyone's going to hate it. You get what I mean, but expect that some people will not like it. And when you find them, you can say, yeah, this is not for that person. So what? They probably like shit that I think is stupid, and you can move on and not give it another thought. Your value is also not based on the work that you do, or how much work you do, or how successful your work is, or how accepted it is, or if it meets the standards of the world. So attaching your self-worth to this is also just a losing battle. You can't win this game. Trust me, I've tried. But if you can't detach from your art and your work in this way, you're going to have a really long, emotional, difficult career. If you can separate your feelings and look at each piece as a stepping stone in your path, you'll be able to accept feedback more openly and just be almost excited about the feedback. Because imagine for a minute that you ask someone for feedback and they can't tell you a single thing. If you ever had somebody do that, you're like, oh, what do you see anything, I could have done differently? What could I have done better? And they can't think of one thing to say. They're just like, I don't know, it looks great. Isn't that frustrating to you? That's so fucking frustrating to me. Maybe you're not that type of person. Maybe you enjoy that. But if you're the person that wants to be liked and you base your entire self-worth on everyone thinking that you're perfect, and then cool. Your job here is done. You did it. Now you can retire, I guess. You got all the gold stars available to you. You're done. But if you're the person that's excited to grow and build and get better and better with every piece that you make, you're going to actually be pretty bummed that they had nothing to say to you. I don't know about you guys, but I get the enjoyment out of the growing, of the journey, of every piece being a little bit better than the last. And that's my enjoyment. I know that no piece I do is going to be perfect to me. I'm always going to find a flaw. But if I can find those small wins where I'm like, yeah, if I can kill this thing that I've been struggling with and I finally nailed it, that's growth to me. That is I don't want to say satisfying because I feel like I'm never going to be satisfied, but I enjoy that part of the journey. I enjoy seeing my progress. And if you're not documenting your progress, you're not documenting what you're struggling with, you're not going to see these stepping stones. You're not going to see these improvements. So if you're the type of person that has this growth mindset, you're stoked to hear feedback. You want to hear exactly what they see, how you can improve, and you're ready to take that golden nugget of information and run to the next project immediately and apply it. That's the person you want to be. You want to be excited for the feedback that's going to help you get to the next level. But that means that you have to ask for feedback from the people who scare the shit out of you, who are way above your skill level and who know more than you do. And it's terrifying. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. If you ask for it, be prepared to get it though, and use it, or otherwise it's all for nothing. But you just have to shut up, listen to what they have to say, and go get better.